Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Tired of that gestating creature in your gut? Sick of being rejected by the most sinister of porn auditions? Wish you could just jill off without a hand extension? Or sick of everyone assuming it's not yours?
Well, we have the solution from the makers of the Ain't My Baby Baby Coloring Kit. Squish-A-Wish Productions proudly presents the all-new Daddy's Little Whore Home Abortion Kit.
This custodial-grade vacuum inserts easily into your gaping woman hole, and with a gentle tug, you'll feel God's disapproving nostril sniffing your snooter so you can have your life back.
But what to do with this new unwanted half-a-baby? Just think of the options. A fanciful oven mitt, Christian repellent, a delicious roast, a doorstop, wheel chocks, or simply conduct stem cell research. Aborting twins? How about some lovely new meat slippers, earmuffs, protective headwear? Leave the umbilical intact and fight crime with your fancy new baby nunchaku. Strap them to your swollen fun bags and have the most attractive new bikini top at the beach. But truly, the options are limitless.
Call now. Operators are standing by waiting to judge you. From Squish-A-Wish Products, making your body our business.
And now our feature presentation.
Podcastemonium, like a silent snowflake forgotten in Nickelodeon with Corndog on the podium. Trying to taste the creamy center of the issue, microscopic preposition, definition, erectile tissue for the topic. Let reporters get the bottom, we can drop our pants and top it. Idea Dick's been putting forward for your brain butts. Met the world with disapproval and it rearranged us. Soylent Green Supreme cuts, which is approved by these nuts. Or legumes, don't presume we give a government fuck! We're the turgid shaft of introspection, gagging ignorant throats. Venereal disease that's gonna turn the Pope into a pole dancing Dilophosaurus on dope. Gunned down day one by a zombie Bob Hope. We're gonna shoot ropes of knowledge on your ignorant ass. Now welcome Emperor Dog in the Burro at last.
Podcastemonium is about to get live with a dead raccoon in a busy beehive. Podcastemonium.
This segment's the shit with a big fat ass and a nice set of tits.
Podcastemonium. Chugging beer kegs with a face full of fertilized turtle eggs. Podcastemonium.
Shaves its cunt cause it knows it looks like a dead squirrel in the front.
Welcome, everyone! Welcome to this inaugural edition of Emperor Corndog's Podcastemonium. The levels are going through the roof, or are they not?
Oh, wow. Yes, that... Oh, fuck. I just got skull-fucked by your voice. Give me... Fuck it. They can endure it. That was fun. Yes, we're good to go. We're recording.
Checking the levels, motherfucking checking the levels. Oh, yeah.
Levels are good. Unlike my cholesterol. They're through the roof and plugging up my arteries like a 5-car pile-up in my ass.
That's what happens when we eat two fucking Philly cheesesteaks after 2 hamburgers. I can safely say I've had 2 Philly cheesesteaks after 3 double hamburgers.
America
the beautiful.
Living the dream, exercising our rights.
So welcome to the inaugural edition of Emperor Corndog's Podcastemonium.
Yes.
And we did actually record an episode last week, but the thing about it was a little unstructured, and we thought it could have been improved upon. So...
Yeah, we thought the best way to improve the structure was to take less notes and drink more beer.
Yes.
So that'll provide us with a more coherent program. Hope you all enjoy it.
Yes, and we are drinking Shock Top to begin this opening segment, so we're going to introduce the Podcastemonium drinking game, which basically means anytime that the Burro here refers to any kind of sexual act,
yes.
Take a drink. You will be fucked up beyond all recognition by the end of this show. So, to begin with, I am Emperor Corndog, and I am joined by the Burro.
I'm the Burro. People call me that because I've got a long floppy dick, and occasionally hillbillies fuck me.
Oh boy. So we have to do something right off the get.
Okay.
I have an imperial decree to make.
Go for it.
Now, we didn't air this, so the people listening and watching will not remember, but last week we talked briefly about the original Resident Evil game.
Mm-hmm.
And how there's one bathroom in that whole goddamn mansion. The entire fucking estate has one restroom.
Well, allow me to add an addendum to that. There is one bathroom in the mansion proper, but down in the barracks, there are bathrooms in the bunks.
There are multiple bathrooms?
Well, one per dormitory.
One in the bunks?
Yes.
Yes. And that was in the director's cut?
Yes.
Not in the original game.
God damn it.
The original game, well, to be fair, I could be wrong, but as far as I remember, the original game has one bathroom. And even okay, fuck it, let's grant this fucking proposition. There are two bathrooms in the entire estate. Let's just rid ourselves of any mystery going on here. There are two bathrooms in the entire estate. One is in the mansion, the other is in the guardhouse. My point being that if you're going through the entire fucking game, if you're down in the laboratories and you have to drop shit at any given moment, Barry looks like he probably needs to because he probably ate something really heavy for lunch.
Like a small child or an unattended animal.
Yes, or perhaps the copious amounts of Jill Valentine snatch. No, that would be Chris, my mistake. But if you have to take a shit, what are you going to do? I mean, are you going to run all the way back to the guardhouse to take a dump, or all the way back to the mansion?
Knowing the absurd things that the Umbrella Corporation does behind closed doors, they're probably collecting it in a large tank and attempting to weaponize it. They may have achieved some degree of success by creating a quasi-intelligent pile of human feces that is currently running around the mansion. If you'll recall, in Zero, despite the fact that leeches seem to be the culprit of everything, and they're being led by what I can only assume is a white wizard going through an awkward teen phase, the monster, despite being made of slugs, looks like a living turd just flinging itself all around the room, which could be a metaphor, but I'm not entirely sure for what.
If anything, it is a metaphor for why they need more bathrooms. But I was just thinking about that. Now, we got on that subject to get on this subject. We were talking about that last time, and I thought about another game that has an interesting bathroom issue, and that being the original Duke Nukem 3D. Mm-hmm. In Duke Nukem 3D, there is the famous part of the early parts of the game when you're in the porno theater. You kick in the door to the stall, and there's an alien on this toilet taking a shit, and then, of course, everybody blows him the fuck away right then and there.
Yes.
This is where I get to the Imperial Decree, because I have decided that it is absolutely, under no circumstances, okay to blow a motherfucker away when he's sitting on the toilet. It's not alright. It's just not right. I don't care if he's from another planet and he's trying to fucking... and he shot up your ride and he's causing you to use quotes from They Live. But the bottom line is you cannot blow a guy away when he's on the toilet. Here's what you do. You let him finish taking a shit, you let him wipe his ass, you let him flush the toilet, you let him pull his pants up, go out the stall door, and then you blow him the fuck away.
So what you're saying is you want to apply the pro-life approach to executions.
Yes.
You want to give him a chance to develop it into an organism that you're comfortable killing.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And because of this, I am putting out a warrant for the arrest of Duke Nukem. We're going to take him into the Imperial justice system, and we're going to make sure that he is sentenced to the maximum penalty of 6 weeks of community service.
That's right. The Imperial justice system, if you'll recall, is the system of feet, pounds, and gallons, as opposed to the metric system, which is millimeters and velocitators and flux capacitors.
And Celsius.
Yes, Celsius. Oh, I could go for a good Celsius right now.
Oh, yeah, Celsius.
Speaking of blowing dudes on the toilet, this does not include acts of animal violence and carnage, as we consider obligate carnivores to be immune to the morals of omnivorous behavior, meaning you can't make a T-Rex go vegan, and if it eats a lawyer off the toilet, that's just nature.
And you know what? As they always say in Hollywood, if Steven Spielberg does it, it is fucking okay. I don't agree, but that's how it goes.
The man's an arrogant bastard, but my God, he's right. And by that I mean Steven Spielberg, not Corndog.
No, no, I'm never right. If you're going to listen to this podcast, you'll know that I'm incorrect about virtually everything. Speaking of which, let us talk about the first topic I actually wanted to bring up, which is, since, jumping off of the Jurassic Park reference, we're going to talk about the new Godzilla film. Now, you and I will be going to see it in IMAX 3D next weekend.
That's right, because we're corporate whores.
Yes, we are absolute corporate whores, and I'm sure that many people listening will also be going to see the new movie, because why the fuck not? It's Godzilla, goddammit. And, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the history of Godzilla and how much it means to us and what kind of effect it's had on our culture. Admittedly, I just watched the original Godzilla for the first time in its entirety last night. I've seen most of the Godzilla films. I've seen most of the original Godzilla, but never in a complete sitting. And I still haven't seen Gojira. I'm waiting for the Criterion Blu-ray.
Copy.
So, when did you see the first Godzilla film?
I saw it the first time when I was a kid. I saw the American release. My dad was really big on it, and he was really eager to point out that a lot of the sequences with the American lead walking through the hospital, mourning over the dead, and kind of lamenting, were all added in after the fact, and I couldn't really comprehend why that would be done. It didn't really make sense to me. On a side note, my dad taught me how to watch movies. Some say that makes me irritating. Others mean that, what? Anyway, so I saw that when I was very young, probably about 6 or 7, and then a couple years later, with the rise of DVD and the advent of the internet, it became freakishly easy to get a hold of things I didn't necessarily need or want. So it meant a shit ton of retro DVDs coming through the mailbox, and I got to see Gojira, the original render, which doesn't include any American presence whatsoever.
No.
And is much less of a let's call it an action disaster movie, and much more of a very, very mournful movie, actually. The whole thing really tries to drive home the misery and hopelessness of nuclear annihilation, and I'm looking forward to the newest remake that's coming out, because it seems to be trying to capture that same type of mood, with the trailer alluding to a lot of blasting back to the Stone Age and disastrous developments for mankind. And I really, to this day, Godzilla is just creepy, and it's because he is very much walking death. He is humanity's punishment risen to destroy us.
And it's very, it's totally an example of what happens when mankind has basically said, fuck you to nature, and drops an A-bomb and destroys everything, and then all of a sudden Godzilla comes out and says, oh no, fuck you, buddy. But, it was only, serious for, really just that one movie, because I watched Godzilla Raids again last night, and almost immediately it just goes into full-bore kaiju. I mean, you have the other monster whose name I forgot. The Stegosaurus, let's just call it. That's basically what it is. And Godzilla are fighting throughout the entire film, and the core story involves these people who are like, oh my gosh, we're going to be killed, or worse, or hey, let's go dancing. It's like I'm an airplane pilot, and here's my buddy who's going through issues. I'm going through these issues. They're trying to kill us. Oh, maybe they're not trying to kill us. Let's go dancing. And it's almost like immediately after the first film, the tone changed completely, and I think that's just due to marketing. What do you think?
I think that the Japanese, by and large, do a really good job of, commercializing, and that's not an insult or a bad thing when you look at the way that they handle their movies, television, printed media, video games, things like that. They do a really good job of recognizing an opportunity to franchise. And so they had this epic movie come out. It was heavy. It dealt with the themes of anti-nuclear and just destruction on an unforgivable level. And it was significant. It made an impact, and they wanted to keep that character going, and in true corporate fashion, they made it as accessible as possible, turned it away from disaster movies and made it more into fantasy adventure type movies, especially as kaiju started to get more prominence with other characters, such as Gamera. That is just a goofy series of films.
I have to shame to admit I've never seen the Gamera movies, but I know of them. I've seen bits and pieces of them. It definitely seems like that's the tone, and then that's kind of the way it went with Godzilla as well, because once you got past the first couple of movies, by the time you get to around like Son of Godzilla, it is completely just goofy as a fuck. I mean, the Son of Godzilla character is ridiculous. Just the fights. I remember seeing Godzilla vs. Megalon on Mystery Science Theater 3000 and seeing Jet Jaguar, and it's like, what the fuck happened here? Godzilla's dancing, and they're doing drop kicks, and you can see him use the same piece of footage of Godzilla flying through the air with his tail dragging on the ground, drop kicking motherfuckers, and it's like, what the fuck happened, Admittedly, those are the more fun types of films, I think, but it's very strange to see the direction that it went. And at some point, they just kind of fell out of fashion or something, because we entered into the Heisei era. The original era was called the Showa era, and that began in 1956 with the original film and continued into the 70s when they basically fell off. and then we got Godzilla 1985. Have you ever seen that one?
No, I missed that one.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorites because it's basically a restart of Godzilla. It's a little cheesier than the original film, but you basically get all the goodness. Godzilla smashes buildings to smithereens, people are panicking, you know, the military comes in, tries to fire torpedoes at it and so forth. And then, you know, it just seemed like they kind of started to restart all over again. So it's really not that unusual that the new film is actually a legitimate restart to the Godzilla series because it is being produced by Toho, which is the original company that produced the original Godzilla films. I guess the only thing that leaves out is Gino, the 1998 American remake. What are your thoughts and memories on that one?
I remember seeing that movie when I was a kid. I was excited as hell for it. I had seen a number of Godzilla movies on VHS at my grandparents' house, oddly enough. Hardcore Mexican immigrants had a love of Tarzan, Godzilla, and RoboCop for some fucking reason.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. But I digress. So when this movie came out, I was very excited for it. I was very young. I had not yet been broken. My joy and spirit and innocence were still intact. So I lined up for this thing as early as I could. Got the family into the car, drove the paddy wagon down, and convinced them all to sit through this thing with me because it was Godzilla and they didn't know what they were missing. Turns out I didn't know what we were getting into.
Yeah.
A movie that was less about disaster and the omnipresence of Armageddon and more about the awkward dealings between the Lion King and some woman who apparently is completely evil because she will advance her career at the cost of some dude she forgot she knew.
Well, let me break this down. I just watched Gino, and they call it Gino because it means Godzilla in name only.
Yes.
And I just watched it again a couple weeks ago because I got the VHS copy at Rasputin for 50 cents. I have to mention that because it's a good deal. I picked that up and I watched it again, and here's the thing. Godzilla is a couple of things. The Godzilla remake Gino is two things in one, basically. You're getting a almost frame-for-frame remake of the 1982 monster movie Q the Winged Serpent. Without Quetzalcoatl, you put in the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. There's no sight of Godzilla anywhere. Like I said, it is Godzilla in name only. It is a completely different monster. They're able to kill it with torpedoes, as I recall.
An irradiated marine iguana.
Yes, exactly. It's exactly what it is. And it lays its eggs in Madison Square Garden.
Hatches velociraptors.
Yes, velociraptor babies.
And then they go after the guy from Onimusha 3.
Yeah. And then you got Matthew Broderick, pre-Inspector Gadget, and some chick.
But post the producers.
Post the producers, indeed.
That's not accurate, I'm sorry.
So no matter what, we cannot have a remake here that we're going to be seeing here in a couple days that will be as bad as that. Because, you know, it is a guilty pleasure. I don't hate that film. But it is by no means any kind of Godzilla whatsoever. And with that, I think it is time to be taking our first commercial break. We will be back shortly.
Yes.
Hello, and come on down to Crazy Nikolai. Well, I'll do anything to make a deal. You don't think I'm serious? Well, then come on down and try me, bitch. I will fucking cut you. Hell, I'll cut myself. What do you need? I got it. Bigger, better, worse, cheaper, louder. Whatever you need, we can provide. You need cheap legal counsel? Nikolai can do. I will fight for you in a way you have never been fought for before and probably do not even deserve. But I don't care because I'm starving and I'm going to make a buck because you think you're above the things I'm going to do. Do you need your cats or dogs spayed or neutered? Do your coworkers not show you the proper respect? Does your wife need cheap, affordable therapy? Nikolai can provide, probably all with the same gun as well. Seriously, I will do anything to make a deal. Come on down before I kill this cute little puppy. Turns out he doesn't lay eggs. He's more value to me as meat than he is to you as a companion. Come down and prove me wrong. I will sell him to you by the pound. So come see Crazy Nikolai in downtown Anisville, next to the post office and Lazy Susan's Discount Pet Food Adult Book Superstore. I'm fucking watching you.
All right, we are back here on the podcast, and we would like to take this moment to introduce our lovely correspondent, Dr. Margarine Pendergraft.
Yes, it's totally a pleasure to be here. I've had a couple of cocktails, and I'm eager to answer any of your questions in regards to the sexual sciences.
Well, I believe you have a question from one of our listeners.
Yes, I have here a tweet.
A tweet?
A twat.
It's not a twat.
I have a tweet. I've got a
You have a twat, and you have a tweet now.
Who are you calling a tweet twat? I've got a tiny here little email message from, let's call him Little Limp Willy Weenie. He asks us a question here. Dear Dr. Margarine Pendergrass, yes, I am been attempting to make the nuptials with my intimate other, and I am having a difficult time in achieving erection in order to properly stimulate the penetrative act. Do you have any suggestions to help my pod? Well, wee Willy Winky, I can certainly tell you that you sound like a typical American male in that you've watched far too much internet pornography, and if you could find it in yourself to abstain from watching overweight women wrestle each other in pools of KY jelly before masturbating furiously into one of your girlfriend's socks, then you could probably have an easier time achieving similar levels of visual stimulation in the presence of your loved one. In short, whack it less, love her more.
Good Lord. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Pendercrost.
It's been delicious.
Oh my goodness, I'm sure it has. All right, our correspondent, the Burro, has returned.
What up, dog?
So, how was your shit?
What? It was grand.
Your shit was grand. The shitting was grand. The grand shitting.
Yes, I usually try to keep the activities in my bowels a closely guarded secret because I don't want to make the government privy to the functions of my body. The women seem to have a hard enough time with it. I'd hate for them to start telling me what can and cannot pass through my anus.
Well, you know, that's the thing for society in general, is that as long as it is not a live organism that has a conscious emotional response to things, it probably does not belong in your anus.
What?
If it is a live...
Oh, okay, if it is.
If it is... Okay, maybe I missaid. I'm sorry, everybody. If it is an organism that is conscious and has emotional response to things, it does not belong in your anus.
That being said, you should make sure to stimulate your homosexual partners using only comatose rodents.
And yes, I am excluding humans in this, whatever.
If you have a human small enough to fit in your anus, you probably shouldn't be fucking it at all.
Yes, yeah. Good point. That is a nice save. All right, so actually that kind of leads us into our next topic. I wanted to talk a little bit about adult movies. Now everybody goes, oh, look, these two perverts are going to talk about porn. Well, actually, no, that is the subject of this topic. I wanted to talk about porn versus adult movies.
Now, you've actually got more experience with this on the art side of things. You've done reviews. Mm-hmm. You've interviewed the stars. You've been more involved with the culture behind it as opposed to the culture in front of it. So why don't you go ahead and lay on us your opinion on the definitions?
Okay, well, to understand what the difference between the two is, we go back to the beginning. And in the beginnings of film, let's be honest, there were stag films and sex films as long as film existed. But it was not generally a accepted thing. We had the movement in the 50s and so forth. We had stag films in the 50s that got people thrown in prison. Mm-hmm. And these women were basically fully clothed. I mean, we've seen a lot of the Betty Page reels, if you're a fan of that, which I am. But there was a lot of stuff like that was basically done on a mail order service. And a lot of the people making that stuff were actually sent to prison, or at least jail, for an extended period of time. And then at some point in the 60s, we got the nudie cutie movements, which means it was okay to film naked bodies as long as it was inside the confines of a nudist camp and it was used for educational value.
Oh, I see. Okay, so this is where that shit started.
And then it just sort of opened up the floodgates, and before you know it, within a decade or so, we have full-on porn movies, but they were not being called porn movies. They were just adults-only films.
Okay.
And then we got Deep Throat. Deep Throat became such a huge sensation that it was first basically coined as the first real porno movie. But despite that, it did killer at the box office. So they had to basically segregate the two. And so porn films continued to play in theaters and then eventually exploded on the video market. And it seems that at that point in time is when the rift began, because it was taking porno movies out of the theaters, putting exclusively on videotapes with cheap budgets, shot on video, etc., 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 until we get to the point to where today, porn is what you look at for free on the internet, stroking your meat to, and adult movies still exist very much in our culture. It's just that they are not seen the exact same way. If it's a real film with real cinematography and real actors, and there just happens to be hardcore fucking in it, it isn't a porno movie. And I want to know why. What the fuck is the difference?
Well, if we were to take the Supreme Court's opinion on anything, then pornography would be deemed any visual content that is devoid of artistic merit. See any and all advertising. But
and there's been debates in courts over that for decades. Just to add to your point.
I mean, if you're going to go strictly on the definition of artistic merit, what does and does not have, then you could very easily look to most of the big summer blockbusters as pornography of some sort. We make the joke, call it gun porn, car porn, or celebrity worship even, just a venue for people to line up and pay money to see someone on screen so they can talk about how disappointed they were with the lack of nudity later, which is a weird way to approach pornography, but I think I've lost a little bit of my track there. So...
Yeah.
But looking at it, your definition of adult cinema versus pornography seems to imply exactly that, just a lack of artistic, if not merit, then intent. Adult cinema, even though it may contain pornographic elements, you seem to insist hinges on that desire to be creative and expressive in some way versus just depicting gratuitous, explicit sexual contact.
And I just want to reinforce one thing that you just said. It's not the lack of artistic merit, it's the lack of artistic intent.
Okay.
And I just wanted to drive that point home because that's really what it is. It's just not really being out there, and what I mean is that it has come from our culture and permeated into the porn industry where they really aren't trying to make films, they're just trying to make stroke material.
Well, I agree that a good amount of the things being sold in adult bookstores and downloaded on the internet these days under the banner of pornography could definitely be accused of being completely devoid of artistic intent. But how do you determine that? I mean, it's completely arbitrary. It's relative. I mean, who am I to say that 3 hours of women lining up to take a shit on an old man's chest isn't attempting to get some kind of message across?
Yeah.
I mean, to the person directing that, I mean, that is a work of passion. It is a work of love. You have to, first of all, find this many people. Let's say you just get 12 people together to do it. I have a hard enough time getting 4 people together to play cards, let alone 12 to take a shit on my grandfather. And if that is not artistic intent, I really have a hard time understanding what is. I mean, even if it's not attempting to get any type of real heavy point across or really make you think, it is definitely trying to create a visceral experience, if not emotional, then at the very least a very primal psychological response.
Which the accumulation of people involved makes me think of the Houston 500, but I digress.
I don't follow NASCAR.
Yes, we won't get into that, but there is, we're talking about how things are judged in court. There was a recent indictment of Evil Angel, and I believe I've talked about this before. Evil Angel is a company that is a porno company, and they had 2 of their movies and one of their trailers shown in federal courtrooms to decide in front of a jury whether or not it was obscene.
That is a really awkward jury summons.
Yes, and the two films in question were trying to remember the titles. I'm going to probably get them wrong. It was like Storm Squirters 2 and Milk Nymphos 2, and one of the Fetish Fanatic films. And I'm just going to talk about Milk Nymphos because it was one of my first experiences of seeing milk enemas and finding it like, this isn't supposed to be as hot as it is, I don't think, unless you're really into this shit, but somehow it just becomes pretty to look at.
That becomes the artistic intent argument all over again.
And that's what made me think of it.
A work of passion.
Totally. I mean, you're seeing women douche their anuses full of milk and then squirt it into each other's mouths. This is a work of fucking art. And then they showed this in a federal courtroom, and the jury decided it was not obscene, much to the dismay of the United States government.
By the way, I find it quite interesting, perhaps not ironic, I'm not up on my Alanis Morissette, that in an attempt to convince the American public that obscenity is wrong, they summon 12 strangers and force them to sit through a highlight reel of porn featuring milk being gushed from anuses.
Yes.
Your tax dollars at work.
Indeed. And not only that, but the squirting thing. I mean, squirting videos, it's been kind of a thing in the porn industry that basically if you want to have a pissing movie, you can't have pissing, but you can have squirting. It's female ejaculate, don't you know? Doesn't anybody know that females, when they ejaculate, they basically gush bucket loads of piss all over their fucking sexual partners.
While you make a passionate argument there, sir, I think you have to acknowledge a simple truth, and that is the female orgasm is a myth.
Well, we have to get a female guest on here to demystify us on some of these levels. Ma'am, would you like to tell us, do you actually gush buckets of piss out of your vagina when you orgasm? Or is just the orgasm a myth in its entirety?
The audience can feel free to calm down. I don't actually believe the female orgasm is a myth. In fact, I think it's more real than any orgasm I've ever had. I deal with a good deal of vagina envy on a daily basis, by the way. I do have a fleshlight. It is pretty cool, but I'm going to admit that there is just not the love and tender care that goes into producing one of those things that you see in a gallery that is an art exhibit of specialty dildos.
Yeah. Oh, man. So, I don't know, man. That's just what I wanted to talk about, because I've been watching a lot more, like, exploitation films lately, and things like Female Vampire, which we both watched, which is basically a porn movie. I mean, let's be honest here. It's what it is. It's one of the hottest things I've seen. So, you got a girl who's walking around naked. I had a boner in the first 30 seconds. It's essentially a porn film.
And that being said, there's as much attention put into any of the non-sexual scenes than I would have ever expected from any contemporary adult film, regardless of how hard they're trying to impress you. The dialogue alone is very rich, and if you're just fast-forwarding between spank scenes, you have no idea what is occurring in the film proper, and that is an impressive feat. I think that's something that I'd like to see more people adopt. I think it would be delightful if some of the more, let's say, progressive, cutting-edge, innovative horror directors out there would move into the realm of pornography/adult cinema, just so they can work in a truly uncensored environment, although not unharassed or unimpeded.
Yes, and I think we're kind of seeing some of that, but in kind of a contrived way. I don't think it's really meant to be contrived, but it just comes across that way when you're looking at films like the Lars von Trier films, like Antichrist and Nymphomaniac and so forth, where they basically have, X-rated sex. But you're having, like, A-list Hollywood actors, so they have to have what do they call, stunt cocks?
Stunt wangs.
Stunt wags, stunt cooters.
Raised in the Midwest, learned how to take a beating, sent in a demo tape where you set your genitals on fire, and now you're a stunt dick.
And it's just the way to live your life, man. Some people have to watch their neighbors and go embark on a gay bestiality video in their next yard over. I don't know if I told you that story.
I don't think you did.
It was just an interview I was listening to where this guy was talking about he was filming a porno movie, and the next door the property owner said, "Oh, look out the window, and there's these two guys banging a Shetland pony."
Interesting.
Yes. So, it's different in Europe, I guess is my point. A guy banging a Shetland pony, and according to the story, that pony didn't give a shit, it just kept on eating the hay.
Which I guess implies consent, but you really can't take that to the bank.
Right. But the laws are different over there,
On the subject of bestiality, I don't even know how to segue into that smoothly. I believe that the three driving forces behind any and all sexual activity should be desire, consent, and the pursuit of contentment. That being said, animals, regardless of their size and dimensions, have a difficult time offering up such consent. So I have a difficult time really supporting and condoning bestiality. But at the same time, I think if you're a plump woman in your kitchen scrubbing the kitchen floor with no pants on and your Rottweiler mounts you, it's pretty much his idea. And if you go with it, then you're just internet famous.
Indeed. Basically, what it comes down to is if you have a social security number, you are able to give consent. Otherwise, stay the fuck away from it.
So illegal immigrants are not to be fucked. More after this message.
When a working man such as myself settles in after a long day of racism and lumberjacking, before I reach for that Bengay that I love to spread on my anus to get that tingling sensation on my cinnamon ring that I love since I was just a boy, I grip a solid 12 with both hands on that frosty Schneider beer. Brewed in the Swedish Alps of northern Mississippi, Schneider is a hell of a tasty froth that fills my mouth with a manly joy one can only experience deep in the woods of the deepest south. Grab yourself some Schneider, loosen up. I'm the Marlboro Man, and I approve this message.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Podcastemonium, the show that promised to ask the hard questions such as, why is transsexual porn filed in with the gay even when they're banging vaginas?
Yes.
I will be leading this next discussion, this next segment. This topic is one that's close to my heart. I tend to obsess with issues of the flesh. due to the fact that I'm just obsessed with humans, really. And that would come with, let's call it inequality in sexploitation. I notice it a lot in the areas that I frequent. Being a nerd, I do thoroughly enjoy things like comic books, video games, anime, and the conventions relevant to those topics. Now, the issue at hand that I want to discuss is that it is widely perceived, and correctly so, that a lot of the promotional material and the atmosphere being projected by this media and these events is catered towards the heterosexual male and tends to tantalize with a lot of skimpy outfits, busty women, and objectified femininity. Now, while I do believe that objectification is cruel and ignorant, I don't believe that sexualization is synonymous with shame. I don't believe that sex and shame go hand in hand. I think that it's a superstition we need to get over. The point I'm trying to make is the inequality in the presentation really doesn't do anything to help anyone in becoming more comfortable with their own identities, their own bodies, or indeed in the company of others. I feel that women should be provided equal opportunity to provide such cheesecakey trouser wowsery, if you will, in the form of things like scantily clad male characters produced by female artists who quite honestly want to be excited and tantalized in the same way, but are forced to repress such behavior or unnecessarily defend it in a way that males are not expected to because of the cultural, let's say, impetus, imperative. I'm throwing off a lot of words that I'm pretty sure I know what they mean, but I can't be positive. Tweet me a real definition if you know. But anyway, they are not provided with an equal opportunity to indulge in such gratuity. And I think rather than trying to repress the male end of things that would appeal to the hetero dude, the bonerification, we should be encouraging the female crowd to jump in and have an equal share in this culture, which, although immature, undeveloped, unfocused, is ultimately celebratory in these aspects. Admittedly, much of the populace needs to learn a good deal of respect and empathy in the indulgence of these things. Great power, great responsibility. I'm pretty sure Jesus said that. But I just lost my train of fucking thought.
Well,
feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I mean, look at this. You know, you could look at this a couple of different ways. As dudes, do we really want to see scantily clad dudes? No, not really. But here's the thing. As you were just talking about, sex and shame, they don't mix. They really don't. We should not be ashamed of sexuality. It's a big part of our culture and our society and our lives. And if we are going to celebrate that based on one gender, it's really, really fucking biased and not really that cool. It should be opened up and it should be fair, you know? We should be able to just be free with ourselves and not have any shame whatsoever with regard to our sexuality.
With the one-sidedness of the presentation, we create a lot of oppression, and really it just makes it dangerous, if not unpleasant, to be a female in these environments, because you're expected to pay homage to all these projected fantasies being put forward by insecure egos offended that you have not acknowledged and appeased their desires. And if that's not approaching psychosis, I don't know what is. I mean, it takes a lot of really ignorant balls for a woman to walk into a room you've never met and decide she owes you because you want her.
Yeah, and it's fucked up because that happens a lot. I mean, it just happens entirely too frequently. And, you know, we've been to conventions before, and the first thing you see is anytime a girl walks in who's dressed up in a fantasy costume. We saw Princess Leia at the last...
Slave Leia, she's a popular costume.
Yes, and she was just being bombarded, and I would imagine she probably dealt with a lot of fucking shitty attitude.
We took a spectative position up in the stands. This was Stockton Con 2013, held in a building whose name I forget. But
the Stockton Arena.
The Stockton Arena. It'll be going on this year, and I'll be sure to memorize the venue.
Yes.
But we decided to take a breather up in the stands. The Stockton Arena, normally home to indoor hockey and other similar events,
yes.
Full of bleachers, so there's plenty of seating room for this one-room event. And in so doing, we watched this slave Leia attempt to make her way down a row of dealers' booths. And I think it was over the course of 45 minutes, she managed to travel maybe 15 feet because she just couldn't move through without people constantly hounding her for photographs. Now, it is completely her prerogative as to whether or not she will pose for photographs. Anytime any person goes out in public, they take a risk of being seen and photographed without their approval, which doesn't make it okay, but it just means that it's something we all have to deal with being in public in the age of instant digital media.
Right.
In this case, though, she is at accelerated risk because, well, let's face it, a lot of men are projecting fantasies on her. One, because she's a female in this environment, and two, because she's dressed in that way. I think she should be allowed to dress that way freely, not for my satisfaction. While I do enjoy looking at her, I think she should be able to partake in the event equally and fearlessly. One, a scantily clad costume is not consent to take a photograph. The polite thing to do is always ask if it is okay to take that photograph. Because let's face it, regardless of what you feel you're doing, you'd be pissed off if people just stop you every 5 feet to constantly flap a photo with you, especially if they've wrapped their arm around you without asking first and say nasty shit to you because they think, well, you can't stop them.
Yeah.
And that's just horseshit.
That's bullshit. Yeah, totally.
I think that sex and all those who choose to participate in it and its cultures and its celebrations should be able to do so freely, safely, and with the ability to decline any and all things at any and all times.
Yeah, and you know, we saw tons of that. That was just one example, but I mean, just going to any of these conventions, you're going to see the first hot cosplay chick is just going to be bombarded from beginning to end. And, you know, there is no responsibility that's being held up on these dudes, you know.
These guys aren't being held responsible for what they're doing, yeah.
Yeah, they aren't being held accountable for the fact that they're basically behaving in incredibly shitty ways. And it shouldn't be like that. And, you know, it should be free to look however you want, dress however the fuck you want, and be treated with respect for it. And that applies to any and all scenarios.
It's a celebration, as I said before, these events. There are people coming together to celebrate a shared interest in the lifestyle, the media, the creativity, the people behind it, and share in their ambitions for the future within that community. A lot of these people are creative themselves. And I know of several people who simply refuse to participate anymore because they cannot do so in a way that they feel is safe or respectful. And I just think that's a goddamn tragedy. That's just a fucking shame. And people are far too willing to ignore it, to pretend that it's not happening, or to outright defend it. I'm often horrified at the willingness of an individual to say, well, she shouldn't have come out dressed like that if she didn't want me to treat her like that.
That's bullshit.
And that just goes back to, like...
That goes back to fucking people trying to defend rape.
Yeah,
exactly. She was wearing a miniskirt, so she deserved it, because what the fuck? She can't be wearing a miniskirt around a bunch of dudes because we're just going to have to rape her.
It's
bullshit.
It's this... this refusal to acknowledge that we are not entitled the world. The assumption that any and all women at any and all times crave any and all dicks. And anyone who does not is doing wrong and should be punished is just fucking disturbing. I mean, I applaud any woman who manages to go an entire week without just stabbing the shit out of somebody in that type of environment.
Totally. Absolutely. And let's take a selfish approach, shall we? It does kind of make things awkward for anybody that does want to engage in respectful and polite conversation with some of these girls after they've been putting up with all that shit. So it affects us too. You know what I mean? If you really want to think about it that way too, if you need a more practical reason, it's fucked up to them. We can go on ad nauseum about that, but we see it on our side of things too, because if we go up and try to talk to that same girl, there's going to be that, oh Jesus, here we fucking go again.
Exactly. I mean, I'm not going to pretend at all that we are the greatest victims in this.
No, that's not what I'm illustrating whatsoever.
No, not at all. But I do entirely agree. I mean, I'll see somebody who's cosplaying a character that I'm very fond of. I'm a big Resident Evil fan. I play a lot of 2D fighters, and you bump into a lot of those type of characters and cosplayers, and depending on the type of day that they had, a simple moment of, hey, cool costume, can I take a picture, can quickly spiral out of control into me feeling guilty over something that she assumes I did. And even though I didn't, she feels it has occurred, and it has to be acknowledged that the experiences are pretty much identical at that point.
Yeah. And it sucks, dude. It's really, I mean, okay, so we've addressed the issue, we've addressed how we feel about it. What could we put forth out there as a potential remedy?
It's going to take a great deal of social change. It's going to take a lot of people first taking responsibility. There's always responsibility, and it goes two ways. In any conversation, in any interaction, both people are responsible for being respectable to each other, so long as no reason has been given to the contrary. I mean, obviously, if somebody walks up to you and opens up with, hey, bitch, how's your asshole taste? Feel free to stab them.
Yeah, indeed.
And that sounds like a really tasteless joke, but that's actually a fucking quote.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so welcome to Earth.
Yes.
On a side note, though, I think if anybody's willing to, politely, my eyes are up here. Hi, how are you? I enjoy the character. Your costume looks awesome. Can I get a photo? No? Fair enough. Enjoy the con. It was a pleasure to see you anyway.
Yeah.
If only it were so simple.
Yeah. Indeed.
Again, I think it goes back to this notion of entitlement that we're raised with as males. We're taught to expect people to rejoice at our sexual triumphs and to be honored to be a part of them. We are taught to assume that any woman at any time should be happy to get our dick. We are taught that if we don't want these things, there's something wrong with us. We are taught that if we don't chase women and treat them like trophies, that we are somehow less masculine, that we are less of a man, so to speak.
And I want to throw one thing in here. It is not just men teaching men this. Absolutely not. There are women who respond almost exclusively to this kind of treatment. Whether they, and I'm not trying to get inside that side of things here. I'm looking at it from my vantage point and saying there are quite a bit of women that I've known that you can be nice to them all day. They're going to fall for the guy that says that kind of shit to them. And it is an honest to goodness thing that does happen all the fucking time.
And that's going back to the whole idea that interactions between people go two ways. Females raised in this environment learn very quickly that as a child, a female girl, you're a princess, you're a queen, you're innocent, you're beautiful. What did those boys say to you? I'll show them, I'll teach them. As soon as they start to sexually mature, the first girl to get hips and breasts in the class is instantly outcast. She is the slut. She's getting all types of negative attention. It's no good. And she can either fight it and further be ostracized, or she can embrace it and just basically give in and allow her soul to be absorbed by this culture in order to just make the harassment stop. But even that doesn't successfully occur. Now she's just trading one form of harassment for another. And it's, like I said, it's going to take a great deal of social change. Not going to happen overnight. And it really requires a lot of people to just stop, realize what they're doing, and really think about what it would take out of them to have to endure it themselves every day. And that sounds like a whole lot of touchy-feely shit to a lot of people, but it's basic empathy.
And just to reinforce that, accepting responsibility is a self-task. It isn't something that you look and say, okay, everybody else needs to do this. Your number one priority is to accept that responsibility for yourself, and to try to express to others how to do the very same thing in the common interest of changing the landscape for the better.
It's very easy to think in terms of people should, you should, they should, but really the thing that's going to affect the most change is thinking in terms of I should. And as soon as you start to approach things with that kind of perspective, you can really start to accomplish some big changes within yourself, and that starts to radiate outward. It changes the people you're around. It is noticeable, and people get offended by that type of thinking and that type of behavior because it challenges the entitlement that has been placed upon them. We've been taught to grow up to assume we are princes becoming kings, and they see it as a threat to this kingdom they are not owed. We'll be back.
And just one final note to anybody else who has that philosophy. Remember, there is only one emperor in one kingdom. You know that. Don't try to deny it.
Emperor Corndog, all hail.
Indeed.
Hey there, fags. What's got you down? Sick of being ostracized by your peers? Tired of being judged by a god who hates you for choosing a deviant lifestyle? Well, come on down to Sunny Acres Straight Camp. Well, we'll bang the gay out of you. For 6 solid days, we'll strap you, unsupervised, into a bunk with 12 other bi-curious adolescent boys, expecting you not to get into any trouble at all, and then punishing you severely when you do. But trust me, it's worth it. Assuming we don't find you dangling from the rafters in one of the shower house, you'll go on to become a productive member of society, so long as you're willing to admit there's no such thing as a happy queer. Warning, Sunshine or whatever the fuck we just called it, Happy Gay Camp is not actually liable for any type of well-being of the kids you leave unattended in our supervision. Quite frankly, I'm offended that you would leave them in our supervision, seeing as we don't have any kids ourselves and are self-loathing fags. Welcome back to Podcastemonium. After digging into our souls for something a little less comedic and a little more serious, we want to change that.
Yes.
Right now. Things got a little serious there, but it's okay.
It is time to start making some fisting jokes.
Not that we're afraid of the subjects or anything, but we feel like we promised you entertainment, and you might be a little angry with us for making you think.
So with that being said, it's time to go to the phone lines. We have Sean Connery on the phone. Sean Connery, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great today, sure. I'm tripping balls, though. I didn't expect a phone. Well, I guess I called you.
Yes, you did call us.
This is a really unorganized bit. What
You
can I
said
do
you're
for
tripping balls, so you don't know why you called us? Is that what's going on?
I thought I was performing CPR on a very small R2-D2 unit, but then it started ringing, and you guys were there.
Oh dear. So what's going on in your world today, Mr. Connery, aside from all of that other nonsense?
Not a whole lot, really. I tried to challenge The Undertaker at WrestleMania so that I could end the streak, but it turns out Brock Lesnar did it on a technicality, or at least I've heard. On another side note, I think I'm still the last dragon, but I can't be positive. I've not been in a movie in over a decade, and I don't really regret it, but if you know where I am, could you please come find me?
We will make sure to not do that. Okay, thank you, Mr. Connery. Let's go to the lines here. We have, oh my goodness, we have Bill Cosby on the line. Bill Cosby. Okay, Bill Cosby is in dental drill mode. Flippity floppity. Nickelodeon. Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so let's get right into the news here, folks. Now, we tried to do this nonsense before.
Yes.
By having a game of how to connect Emilio Estevez to Carmen Sandiego in 5 steps or less, but it just
I think it was called 5 Steps to Vegan Rehab.
Right. And it didn't work out so well. So we are going to try to come around with This Week in History on the next episode. But for today, we're going to go to the news. And one of the first things that I saw on the news today is that apparently gay marriage has actually been legalized in Arkansas.
Go for it. Cool.
Yeah, and it just seems to me like that is crazy stuff because, like, well, fuck Arkansas. Wouldn't that be like the goddamn last state of all of them to allow gay marriage? But apparently in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, 2 women were married on a sidewalk outside a country courthouse in Arkansas on Saturday, breaking a barrier that state voters put in place with a constitutional amendment 10 years ago. So that is some pretty cool stuff, honestly.
Rock on. I mean, it's not just about trying to bend tradition in order to acknowledge customs that are coming around. It's about government benefits. And if they're going to be awarded, they need to be awarded equally.
Oh, yeah, totally. Absolutely. Apparently, Dr. Dre has the potential to become the first hip-hop billionaire.
Hell yeah, big move. Cool.
So you know more about this than I do. What's the skinny?
I don't know a whole lot. I'm really only acquainted with the headline myself, and then I'm speculating beyond that. But apparently Beats was purchased by Apple for $3.2 billion. And Dr. Dre is looking to become the big billionaire. He's joining the economic elite up there with the secret government and those who secretly
Illuminati.
own all of our fresh water and control the media that we are entertained by. I think that's monumental. I mean, especially given the progression of hip-hop through American culture over the last 40 years. Especially with the advent of gangster rap, it was very much politically motivated music. I mean, it was punk rock.
Totally.
And just coming with a different scheme. Hip-hop itself coming out of a culture that was trying to express itself to a society that was trying to silence them desperately. And I think that this is rap living up to every claim it's ever made.
Wow. I mean, it's just so hard to believe. It's like Dr. Dre, I mean, who we've all familiar with. I remember when I was a kid, Chronic 2001 coming out was a big fucking deal. And just to think that this guy is now up there with literally, the billionaires and the Illuminati. So
just the concept of the self-made billionaire. Mm-hmm. I want to stress that, billionaire. People who win the lottery are still less than a tenth as financially secure than a billionaire. Self-made, working, collaborative, yes, but just paid off.
But from literally the ground up.
Yeah, just going from work, selling tapes out of the trunk, working hard, making a name for yourself, making claims, and never backing down. It's impressive, and I'd be hard-pressed to criticize such a success.
Absolutely. And we got a list that I thought was interesting. These are the top 5 toughest personalities to deal with in the workplace. And they are as follows. Number 1 is narcissists. And you got any experience with narcissists in your workplace?
I'm probably the narcissist.
You're probably the narcissist. It says here, narcissists have an inflated sense of their own importance and crave constant attention and praise. They are self-absorbed and lack the capacity for empathy. You have to realize that this person won't care whether the other people are feeling, which is a huge drawback in the workplace. Now, I have to say, after reading that I probably actually totally am a narcissist.
I'm starting to feel less identified with that title myself.
Really? You're backing off of it, huh? I'm back moving towards it. I'm like, that's me.
I definitely obsess over the people around me. I love telling dirty jokes. I love upsetting people when I feel like they have it coming. By that I mean they take themselves too seriously. They're too aggressive. They're very angry and heavy-handed people. I like to mess with that. But beyond that, I really don't like to offend people. I like to keep everyone comfy and happy.
Wow. And admittedly, I think we're learning shit about each other today because fucking hey, I that is totally just me to a T. But in my own defense, I think the workplace did it to me. It's just one of those things where you have to fight for your place a lot of times, and so you do kind of develop that fuck the rest of you guys. I'm going ahead.
I've definitely encountered a lot of that type of behavior.
It almost has to be if you really want to survive in that type of environment. Next up, we have the passive aggressive types. They will promise to help you with a project, but then they won't. Or they'll show up 15 minutes late. Passive aggressiveness is a form of anger, but not in an outright form. You may be tempted to try to get to the bottom of what's making them angry and try to resolve the problem. Don't go there. It's the other character disorder. They have to dig very deep. Blah, 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 blah. So basically people have deep-seated issues that they're pissed off about, but they just act as if nothing really matters to them, and you know that they're lying, essentially.
I think an example I could give for passive aggression is just silently allowing the people around you to fail when it could have been prevented, just to let them go, to punish them for some perceived slight. And that's definitely a common thing depending on how hard it is to find work or how lucrative advancement can be in your workplace.
Yeah, totally. Next one they have is gossips. So every workplace will have a certain amount of gossiping, but if one of your employees enjoys reporting bad news about you, others in your company, it sounds like they're business owners sharing this information the way it's written here, or even the competition, that's destructive behavior and you need to do something about it. Now, yes, everybody I think in a certain way deals with gossiping. I mean, everybody's just kind of, you're like, did you hear that this person did this? And this is like, oh my God, these two people, it's like, fucking mind your own goddamn business, why don't you? Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I don't really have any input on that.
You don't have gossiping in your line of work?
Gossiping, it occurs, but it's shut down very quickly. I mean, it's a thing that has been very destructive where I work in the past, and it's something that we've all, quite frankly, just gotten tired of. So when something like that starts to happen, we try to air it out as quickly as possible.
Cool. That's good. That's good, because it's kind of a nuisance.
Yeah.
Next up is anger addicts. Some people deal with workplace tensions by accusing their coworkers of misdeeds, yelling at others, and generally giving their angry feelings free rein. Some of the most challenging employees you'll have to deal with. Now, yeah, I think there's plenty of that, actually.
There are plenty of people that lash out with their frustration. Now, a small minority of the angry employees could be forgiven to a degree because they genuinely feel that that things could be done better.
Yes.
That things could be improved, and that can cause a lot of frustration and anger. But for the most part, when that type of behavior arrives, it's just because they feel they can get away with it and they're trying to overcome some impotence.
Yeah, and I honestly, I see a lot of that in myself too. So it's I think I'm learning things here. And the fifth one that they have listed here are guilt trippers. Now, this one I think we can all relate to.
My mom.
Yeah. Well, this is workplace specific, but yeah. I think moms are generally almost all guilt tripped.
You didn't call me yesterday. Now I have uterine cancer.
Oh, shit.
Oh, man.
How did fucking calling you would have prevented that?
I don't know. Anyway, yeah.
No, I mean, my supervisor at where I work right now is a complete guilt tripper. I mean, literally, he's trying to get us to stay late every single fucking day. And if we don't stay late, he's like, well, we could have got so much more done, but you didn't want to stay late. So, I mean, whatever. I guess you got more business, important things going on at home and this and that. It's every fucking day with that shit. And it's like, dude.
That's manipulative. That sucks.
That's bullshit. And not only that, but after a while, I think it has a backlash effect. It actually kind of a ricochet effect, I think, is what it is. Actually, I would describe it as, because it promotes people not giving a fuck about what's going on at work.
Yeah, it just makes folks resentful. They don't want to even interact with you. I can thankfully say, honestly, that is something that simply does not occur where I work.
Really?
Just to no degree.
That is very interesting. We have different types of places that we work.
I've also worked there for a very long time. The turnaround tends to be pretty high at the low level, but for the most part, the people there that I've worked with for damn near a decade, and we're all very comfortable with airing that kind of shit out. There was a time when this type of behavior was very prevalent, and it was a very hostile environment. But like any other relationship, you can't just quit. You got to come forward with some honesty, some responsibility, and you can come out the other side just amazed at the quality of your interactions after that.
Nice. And the last piece of news that we have to talk about today is the upcoming release in June anyway, of Ultra Street Fighter 4.
Right, Ultra Street Fighter 4. I wanted to talk about this because I noticed that there's been a little bit of bitching and whining on the part of the community in terms of dissatisfaction with the characters that we are being given, most specifically with Hugo and with Poison. People are calling foul laziness. Because these character models are being pulled directly from Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Honestly, I didn't really enjoy Street Fighter Cross Tekken. I'm a big fan of Hugo. I've always loved Poison. I don't know why. I've just got a major affinity for transgendered characters.
Yeah.
But the fact that she's playable for the first time is a big deal to me. So I'm looking forward to that. And quite honestly, I'd rather play as them in a straight Street Fighter game as opposed to a crossover. I feel like it would be a diminished experience if the only time we got to play these characters again after Third Strike and SVC Chaos in the case of Hugo would be to have them in another crossover game. So I'm happy to have them there. And the other thing I wanted to address is DeCapri. Okay, now people are complaining about this character because they claim that she is just a straight rip-off clone of Cammy. Now, as a fan of the extended universe, I read the comics, I watch the movies, the anime. I try to take in as much Street Fighter as I can. With games like this that are so character-driven, you can pick your character, not necessarily create them, but you can pick them. I pick them purely off of aesthetic sensibility. When there is no extended universe, you pick them strictly off of appearance.
Yeah.
Or I do anyway. I pick them strictly off appearance. I don't care who's competitive, who's tier 1, who's tier 4. It doesn't matter to me. I'm not a frame counter. I've been playing for years because I love the game, not because I think I dominate at it.
And that applies to all fighting games, Soul Calibur, Mortal Kombat, etc.
But getting back to the subject, so with DeCapri, she's relevant to fans of that extended universe. People are calling her out. She's a Cammy clone. Technically, Cammy is a DeCapri clone.
Really?
In a series of clones meant to act as escape pods, basically, for Bison. When he dies, he wants to transfer his soul into these empty shells, of which Cammy is the prototype, really. She is the first successful vessel that they consider perfect and worthy of hosting Bison. The last iteration before her was DeCapri. Okay. And she is scarred all to hell. At the time she was created, she was the best of the series so far. She's a member of the Dolls, which could be considered Bison's Royal Guard elite agents. They go out, they get shit done, they're deadly. But DeCapri is so experienced, tested, broken in. She's scarred, she's hideous, and her mind is broken. And then here comes Cammy, who is freed by Rose. They encounter each other face to face. Cammy's mind is blown because she wants to know why she's looking at herself with third-degree burns. DeCapri doesn't give a fuck. She knows who Cammy is and just wants her dead because that's her mission now. She's defected. And as a nerd, looking at this, picking my character based on what I know about them and what I like about them as people, DeCapri is a great pick simply for the fact that she is for the fans. She's not for the competitive player. She is for the Street Fighter universe fan, the guy with the comics, the guy drawing fan art, the guy who went, holy fuck, DeCapri, hell yes, that is a dark, twisted story. That's who that character came in for, and I just feel like that perspective needs to be shared without silencing the competitive players who are looking at this strictly as a gameplay shortcoming. You're right. She is a Cammy clone, but that is her appeal to the people who are capable of appreciating it.
All right, well said, my friend. Well said. All right, so we have a final piece of business to attend to.
Yes, we do.
We have the Burro's top 5 assholes he would like to eat without anybody watching or with anybody watching.
Yeah, I think the condensed version of that title is my top 5 buttholes I would eat out at the drop of a dime, regardless of weather conditions.
I have one mention that I want to do for mine, and then I'll let you get to it.
Go nuts.
Christy Mack. Porn star. If you don't know who she is, look her up on the internet. I would tongue that anus for at least 3 days non-stop.
Might seem kind of seem kind of odd that we're having such a discussion given our last segment, but
Yes,
I will come right out and offer this disclaimer. If you hear yourself on this list and you do not approve, let me know. I will never bring it up again. I'm sorry for invading your space. However, if you hear your name on this list and you do approve, drop me a line. Number 5, Lola Bunny. Okay, straight out of Space Jam. I'm a furry. Fuck y'all. Yif. Now, I love Lola Bunny because everybody on this list actually is completely unfuckwittable. I mean, just unstoppable. Bugs Bunny sees her, he sees Hot Rabbit, goes, oh nuts, baby girl, man, doll. And then she just fucking lights up and owns his ass. She goes straight through, kills it, athletic, talented, confident, doesn't give a fuck. And that is attractive to me. I wish she would demand it. I would go nuts. I don't care how many carrots she just ate. Number 4, Tali Zora Naraya. Now, this is admittedly before I realized that the Quarians were not in fact blue squid people, but actually just Greeks with 3 fingers. No offense to the Greek, but the appeal to me was the fact that we had an ultra tech-savvy alien squid nerd running around with a severe allergy to the universe she lives in. Again, very compelling character. She's on a pilgrimage, a kid on her house for the first time, first semester in college, living on her own. What does she do? She contributes to the salvation of the fucking galaxy. Eat it.
Eat that asshole.
Number 3, Robin / Nightwing.
Oh boy.
I'm specifying the / Nightwing to say specifically that it is the Dick Grayson, but it has to be in the Robin outfit. I'm not going to pretend to explain why this is the case, but I'll tell you right now, I give no fucks. I would go absolutely batshit on that, no pun intended.
Batshit indeed.
Number 2, Gadget Hack Wrench, furry. All right, now Gadget is actually holds a pride of place of being the first crush I have ever entertained. You all right over there, man?
I'll just keep going.
Okay. The first crush I've ever entertained. Chippendale Rescue Rangers. She is, again, the completely unfuckwittable technological genius of the Rescue Rangers. Everything she builds works. She is incredibly loyal, freakishly intelligent, skilled in an inhuman level. Literally, it would take people lifetimes to be able to comprehend what she does with a cigarette lighter, bottle caps, and a paperclip. Fuck MacGyver. Gadget comes in shit and she fucking owns it. And if she finds out that you disrespected her by lying to her or trying to shake her confidence, she will fucking destroy you.
That is a tiny anus to be.
Now, admittedly, seeing that Gadget is a mouse, if you want to keep it to scale, it would be like trying to lick a fucking Twinkie across a table. But I think for the sake of this list, it's never going to come to pass. So, absurdity's okay. Number 1, the only actual human on this list, Siri, and I don't mean the app. I mean the porn star.
Porn star that I was just introduced to not a little while ago.
Adult superstar. I really enjoy her enthusiasm. I am a porno fan because I am a pervert. Again, I'm obsessed with flesh, and I think sex is the greatest physical sensation I've occurred so far. A very close second is body piercing. But I love that enthusiasm. I love the fact that she is very ready to broadcast, and if, hey, this is all an act and I'm completely wrong, I apologize, but I've been sucked in by the performance. Respect anyway. Anywho, she makes it very clear that she wants to be there, that she enjoys this lifestyle, that she participates in a very open, unashamed, fearless, indulgent sexual culture.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And that is fucking incredible. That's epic. And like I said, if you hear on this list and you're bugged, let me know. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to put anything on you, but hey, if you're down for it, I'm available. And I'm like a puppy. I just want to make you happy.
Mm-hmm. And puppies lick assholes, so that is how we're going to handle things here on Podcastemonium. And that is going to do it for today's episode. We plan to be back with a new episode very soon, probably next week. What do you think?
I think that sounds cool, hopefully with a more disciplined format and a little bit of a leveler head on my part.
Yeah. But the good excuse that being done with the podcast is that now we can go drink shitloads and bucket loads of alcohol. And thank you guys for listening to this entire episode. If you've done so, if you haven't, well, please listen to our episode. We will beg of you. We'll be passing out free merch if this shit doesn't continue. But that has been it for
That has been it for this episode of Podcastemonium. We thank you for your time and enjoying your company. Please get the fuck out of our airplane, exit to the left, and be respectful to any hostesses. Don't leave any condescending, passive-aggressive fucking...
you can't do it either!
Don't leave any condescending, passive-aggressive cocktail napkins with messages to your female pilot on the fucking seat, you piece of shit.
Good night, everybody.
Hey, druggies, are you tired of this shit happening?
I'm not high.
Formerly a cleaning product for sinks and toilets, now it's a party in a can.
I'm the party pooper! Let's put some white streaks on these sheets, motherfuckers!
It's Ajax!
Yeah! I'm about to crush Congress with my butt cheeks!
With Ajax, when opportunity knocks, you'll be kicking down the fucking door.
Who's gonna answer to this horse shit, Mr. President?
There's nothing like it, except for maybe Comet.
Where's the Parmesan? My tortellini's feeling a little plain in the bowl.
Shit happens when you party with Ajax.
This my dick of yours? Fuck it! I gotta go to work!
Fucking bullshit!